So one of my themes is kind of survivalist bushcraft, but using technology. If you've got a single point of failure, if you've got stuff that will be used up and you have to bug out, or even if you have to bug in, at some point you will run out of that stuff, and then what? So part of what I'm saying is, look at what we have available. The BioLite rocket stove, yes, it costs about 200 American, but you can get it on deals if you keep looking out for it. It works perfectly fine as a rocket stove. But whilst it can produce electrical power, it can power flashlights and cell phones. And that's kind of important to me, that have some power. And it's contained within the rocket stove itself. It's very fuel efficient. That's also very important to me. Where I am, I can use pine pitch, it's very sticky, birch, a whole bunch of fire-starting natural materials, and I would. And I'd gather them when it was very dry and had been dry, and I'd keep them. It's not a big deal. I can use a ferro rod, I can use a bic, I can use matches. I have enough bics to last me my lifetime. I won't have a problem starting fire, but if we're farting around looking at Instafire and all of these little things, all of these little cocoons of petrochemicals to instant flame and all the rest of it, you've got to ask yourself, what the heck is the point of that? I mean, really? Are we that dependent on instant turn on? We can't spend 5-10 minutes waiting for the fire to get going and nursing it along? I think we should. In Grid Down, we're going to be calorie deficient all the time, apart from if we catch a deer or a bear, which is going to be very, very rare, and then we'll gorge ourselves. But most of the time, you're going to be hungry. So to take it slowly, to use what's around you, to use pine cones, to use dead leaves and stuff like this as natural fire material, that strikes me as far superior to having fancy ferro rods, fancy this and fancy that. Now, I do have a ferro rod, I have several. I just brought one on the trip because I wanted to try it out. I have 3 or 4 lighters, and I even have a box of matches in there somewhere. I would never have a problem. And what I'm going to do over the next few days, I'm going to start the fire and the BioLite with various means. So solar powered lights, solar powered this, that and the other, they will fail over time. But what about lighting? So I did ask UV Pack Light if I could have a few of their sample products after getting a small one from a pocket box, and they completely ignored me. And then they sent me some. So they're charging over there, and hopefully I'll show you them tonight. Because even though it's insufficient probably to read by, just having low level illumination around your perimeter and inside your campsite at night, or inside your home or outside your home, bug in, bug out, doesn't matter, is an absolute plus. And because it's green, fairly hard to see. If you're hanging them around in the trees around here, during the day people aren't going to see them. People will see them at night. And from what I can tell, it should give me enough illumination to say, oh, that's a bear. Oh, that's a person over there. Instead of being in real doubt if there's no moon or it's cloudy. I have a nice tent, and I think it's a nice tent, and it's a good idea to have a nice tent because it's going to be very buggy tonight. Very buggy. But I don't really need it. So I'm using the Mission LifeStraw 12. I really like it. It's very easy to use. I have extra filters they send me, but I don't really need it. This water's pretty clean. If the water wasn't clean, I'd get a separate container and micro towel it before I put it into the collection bag. It's fast. It's easy to use. Now I've figured it out. And it gives me 12 litres of water. I mean, I don't need 12 litres of water every hour, right? But you might if you've got a bigger group, and this is a much better option for that. Now that leads to the point, well, what do you do when the filter breaks? Because eventually the filter will break. Well, if you've got the BioLite with the cook stove, you can boil 2 litres of water in about 15 to 20 minutes using literally leaves and twigs, and not that many of them. Now you have to tend it every 15 to 20 minutes, right? Because it's not got a huge capacity, it's not a cook stove. So where I am, I have water sorted out. I have plenty of filters, Berkey's, the LifeStraw. I can use sodas, I'm going to be doing that on this trip. And I can also just boil the water. It's not too big a deal. Water's not a big deal where I am. That's one of the reasons I'm here. I think water's a critical factor that you need to can't have too much of, fresh water. Like I say, the tent's good for bugs, but I wouldn't really probably use the tent in a bug out situation. But I have homes around me, there's cottages, there's old barns, there's sheds. You know, with a few nails and a hammer and some inspiration, you can make double-walled sheds that look kind of garbagey, fill it full, just stuff it full of straw and debris, and you've got a fairly decent insulated house. You can jury rig up a stove inside the house as well. There's lots of things we can do. The critical point of failure is going to be this. I won't be able to get vegan food in the apocalypse. It's my lunch today. But I don't really know a way around that other than to store it. I mean, sure I can fish, sure I could maybe try and hunt and stuff like that. But it's going to be a real grind. What we have in the property we've got that we're going to retire to, we have enough acreage there that we can grow. And we'd be growing. We'd be growing on all the green space. It'd be a year-round project. Every day you're going to be in the garden weeding. Every day you're going to be grabbing water and irrigating. And with solar power in the well, we should have water from the hose, which would be a huge advantage. But if power's short for whatever reason, we can rig up a hose to a beaver pond and run it down about 100 meters, 100 yards, and irrigate that way. Plus we can also build roofs and collect rainwater. We have a lot of rainwater here. So we're kind of set. The problem would be security more than anything else for us. And as I said before, I think security is not such a big deal. Hide what you've got, make sure people can't casually get it, make sure people who are searching house to house can't find out most of your stuff. And be armed and be prepared to use it if you have to. Don't live in a state of paranoid fear. Make sure you know your neighbours. We do. Make sure that your neighbours can get together on a regular basis to share information and to share food. If somebody's got far too many carrots and you've got far too many potatoes, you know, barter is what people are looking at, but they're thinking capitalism and commercialism. Exchanging your plenty for somebody else's plenty because they're a friend or a neighbour or part of your community, that's going to be much more sustainable and a lot safer. So my little BioLite system is just about ready. I'm going to have a nice coffee, and then I'm going to have my Bippy Bap. And like I say, the Mission Life Store 12, I had tried it out last summer, not in the field testing it. It's great. Like, just scoop the water in, wash it out, scoop the water in, wash it out, scoop the water in, hang it on a tree, get it all set up, back flush it for a minute, and then you get this amount of water in it probably took 3 minutes, if that. And it tastes okay. No protozoa, no bacteria, no viruses. So they say. I wouldn't really rely on any mechanical filter to actually extract viruses. The Berkey, yeah, I think it would work as long as it hasn't ever been cold and has been treated right. But I think what you really want to do is make sure if you're in a virus area to boil water as much as you can, and probably use chemical treatment after mechanical filtering. You can't be too careful with hepatitis and stuff like that. Alright, that's it for me. Horseflies and deer flies are biting. But you know what? Not really getting any mosquitoes since I put this on. That's why I took the jacket off. So I'm having coffee and I'm having my vegan dehydrated meal. But neither of them is going to be available to me for very long in Grid Down. So what am I going to do? You know, I'm not going to have huge quantities of DEET stored up. I've got full bug suits and we've got spares. We'll be using the bug suits. We'll be using things like this, which is probably an absolute gimmick, but I don't know. It is keeping the mosquitoes off me, no, not the deer and the horsefly. And we would have to adapt. I think one of the critical failure points for me is that people aren't planning to adapt. What they're planning to do is to keep going similar to what they're doing now, but in Grid Down. And I think a Grid Down means we have to change our whole philosophy and ways of being. Community has to be much more important. Agriculture will be 95% of the activity, not going to the market. All of that stuff's going to be critically important. We live in a time of plenty now, so most people look at security and they figure, oh, we'll put 2 people on perimeter patrols 24/7. There's 12 of us in our group. Well, yeah, but that means that 2 guys are doing nothing but wandering around, letting people know that there's an armed group there if they spot them. You don't have the luxury for that. You just won't. Children won't have the luxury to lie in bed till 4 in the afternoon because they're 15 and they don't feel good. 5-year-old kids are going to have to contribute to the weeding and the water carrying. And it's going to be brutal. And with it being brutal, my main fear is that we lose the good parts of our civilization. We lose the ability to make music. We lose the ability to do decent healthcare and women's rights and all of that stuff that are actually defining for us as civilized people. Not add-ons, but they could quickly be seen as add-ons in a grid down, because you're not going to have the time or the luxury. For me up here from May through to October, November, it's get fish, smoke the fish, preserve the fish with salt if I can find a salt lick. I'm still looking for one, they do have them. Grow food, weed, grow food, weed. Do that, and can it and dehydrate it, and on a huge scale. Because pretty much from October through to November to around about probably the middle or the end of June, depending on the weather, I'm not going to get much. Yep, I can use cambium from trees, and I know how to do that, and I will do that, and quite heavily do that. Yes, we could ice fish, and we probably might do that, depending if we need to. Much more calorie efficient to actually harvest in the spring and summer and fall and smoke the fish than to go out there when it's -30, -40 and drill holes through the ice by hand and stand there in the cold in a little hut trying to keep warm and ice fishing. But you know what? It's going to be a process. It's going to be a learning process. It's not going to be easy, and it's not going to be pleasant. And whatever you've got in your bug out bag or your inch bag, you know, that's not going to protect you. It's there to help. So look at the tech you've got, right? Something as simple as a sleeping bag. People argue about this because they argue it from the position of now. There is no question that in grid down, an artificial fibred sleeping bag is absolutely superior to down or goose or whatever you use. You can wash it easier, it's lighter weight, and it's going to hold up better over time. You know, things like that. People are looking at these huge backpacks with metal frames and straps that are very thick and heavy. That's a good idea, but what you really need is a light foraging pack or a light scout pack. Carting that amount of gear around and then trying to survive with it, it could be that much fun. But coffee, I do store a lot of, and it'll make me sad when coffee's no more. But I will keep several pounds of coffee just to chew the beans once a week to remind me of what I've missed. Toodles.